Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Today I'm here with Sonia Samtani from the All About You Wellness Centre. Hi Sonia.
Hi Jules.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
Thank you. It's lovely to have you here.
So your wellness centre looks amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about it, please?
Yes, so this wellness centre, it's called All About You for a number of reasons. Well, firstly, we do look at different aspects of the person. It is all about you. We're looking at what we call your ABCs, your appearance, beliefs, and communication. And we do lots of different private sessions and workshops to enhance that and elevate consciousness. The second reason that it's called All About You is because at a deeper level, I really believe that the life that you're living is about you. It's your beliefs, your emotions that has created the life you're living today. It's created your relationships with people. And so in order to shift anything, we need to look within. And once we shift that from within, the outside changes. So your life is really all about you and your beliefs.
So what are the key things that you focus on working with people in the centre?
Well, a lot of our work is focused on the mind because wellness nowadays tends to be associated with food and fitness. And while I do believe that that's important, the mind is even more important in the sense that you could be doing all the right things and then have fearful thoughts and think that I'm still not good enough and nothing's going to work for me. And then you're going to have a body with disease because the mind creates it. So we tend to work a lot with the mind. And one of the big things that we do is we specialize in hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy tackles those beliefs that you have in your mind that are not working for you. And we've actually split this into sort of 3 different categories. We do readings, healing, and speaking. So in the readings, we do a diagnostic tool to find out, well, what parts are not working. So we do sort of chakra diagnosis, palm reading, psychic mediumship, tarot reading. And then in the therapy part of it, of course, we do hypnotherapy. We do something called the fast track technique. We do energy work, shamanic healing, second, and then an intuitive acupuncture body massage to move the energy within.
I read on your website that you've got hashtag It's Okay. What's that all about?
So It's Okay is a campaign that I launched last year, and it's a fundamental belief that I have that it's okay to feel the way we feel. And this comes from the fact that we're living in duality. So we are going to experience the highs and the lows of life. We can't escape it. And so the fundamental feelings that we have that are so-called positive is usually joy, excitement, and peace. And the fundamental feelings that are low is fear, anger, and sadness. And if we judge those, then we get guilt, embarrassment, humiliation, and all of that. But the thing is, we can't escape the anger, sadness, and fear. It's going to be there. Even if you're a newborn baby, you're going to feel these 3 things. It's just so innate. But what we do is we tend to judge that we're not supposed to feel these so-called negative feelings. And so when we feel it, we're going to hide it. We put on a mask. We pretend it's not there. We suppress it. The body becomes diseased. And then people have to come and see us in order to heal that part. So It's Okay is about acknowledging the fact that we will feel negative sometimes. And it's okay to feel it. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel upset. And once you acknowledge it, you're not suppressing it. It doesn't take over. It doesn't become a passive aggressive thing that will result into a disease. It actually dissipates because it's been accepted. And it just gets released from the body because you're accepting that that's a natural part of life. So I did a 3-minute video campaign on this. And for the whole month of October last year, I had different people sending me videos saying, it's okay for me to feel upset. It's okay for me to feel vulnerable. It's okay for me to feel really angry, very pissed off, to cry. And people were acknowledging their so-called negative emotions and stuff that they would hide. And it was just so empowering.
It sounds amazing. So it's about really recognizing your emotions, understanding them, accepting them, and then building resilience and coping mechanisms to deal with them. Is that right?
Well, that's absolutely right. And the coping mechanisms are not even needed because once you acknowledge and accept something, there is nothing to do except for just be with what is. And that's healing in itself. You don't really need to find another defense or coping mechanism once the acceptance is done. And that's really what healing is about.
Oh, that really makes sense. So if people come to terms with what they're dealing with, then it becomes easier to deal with.
Absolutely. Like, I believe that life teaches us two fundamental lessons in various different ways. And it boils down to either there is something to accept or something to action. So it's something that you're not standing up, you're not actioning on, you're not doing something that you could do, or you're not accepting this person is like this. This is the behavior of my husband or my son or my daughter. This is just the way a situation is. And the lesson that is the one for you is the one that's harder, the one you're resisting. So it's really easy to accept what is. You're probably resigned, and what you need to do is step up. And if you've been stepping up and speaking up but nothing is happening, then it's probably accept the situation, accept the person.
That's so fascinating, because I've been thinking about this myself, and when I have difficult situations, I react in a certain way. And I've really realised that I can choose how I react or choose how I respond. And so it really shouldn't be about the other person's behaviour, but more about the way that I react and respond, and I can make that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about you, right? It is the way that you would respond.
Lovely segue. So how did you get into this area of wellness and well-being? What brought you down this path?
It's a personal story. So about 15 years ago, I was in a place in my life where I didn't particularly like who I was, and I didn't like many things about myself, including the way that I looked, the way that I felt. And one of the stories that I often quote is, at the worst point in my life, I felt so unconfident that I couldn't even place an order at McDonald's because I was so scared I could get it wrong. I couldn't speak up for myself, and the person behind me had to say what my order was. And I was just so scared that what would people think of me? What would happen if I get it wrong? And then I felt that this is not the way to live, and I need to do something about it. So I started out by changing the outside. I wanted to change the way that I looked because I thought that was the fundamental problem. I lost a lot of weight, shifted a lot of my appearance, and life did start to look different. So people started responding to me differently. I started getting different opportunities that I wouldn't get before. And I thought, hey, this is great. Until I realized that the way that I felt was dependent on the other person. So if someone was having a bad day and didn't treat me well, I would feel back down again. And my life was sort of up and down. If I was treated well, I felt good. If I was not, I felt disempowered. And I realized that even though the outside had changed, the inside had fundamentally not. So my beliefs of I'm not good enough and I'm not accepted and all of that was still there. And that's when I went on an inward journey and I really looked at my beliefs. So I started off by doing a lot of coaching, which gave me great coping mechanisms of, okay, when you're disempowered, what do you do to immediately shift your state? And then I went into hypnotherapy, which I thought was extremely powerful because it doesn't just give you coping mechanisms. What it gave me was an elimination of where that issue came from. So why did I feel not good enough? All of those incidents in my childhood, all of those parts of me that were still holding on to those conclusions that I made, I did healing. I eliminated those beliefs from the grassroots, and then I didn't need to cope because I wasn't triggered anymore. I didn't feel that I'm not good enough anymore. And that's when my life went from a lower level to sort of a higher level on a permanent basis, and I thought, this is what I want to bring to the world. This is what I want to give.
So you were actually participating in coaching and hypnotherapy and healing personally to develop yourself first before you went on this path of doing it for others?
Absolutely. I was my first client and I continue to be my client. So this is a never-ending journey. Consciousness keeps moving.
Lovely. I like that quote. That's really great. After you sort of got on track on the outside and the inside, then you decided to train in hypnotherapy.
The funny thing about me is I have decided very little and things have come a lot my way. So I got introduced to somebody that was my teacher and mentor in hypnotherapy because a friend of mine thought that I talk a lot about hypnotherapy and personal development, and another friend of hers was talking the same language and she said, "You both talk weird, you guys should meet." So because we were talking weird stuff, we met.
Yeah.
And she introduced me to the person who is now my teacher. And something in my gut said, yes, I want to bring this man to Hong Kong. So I brought him here. I started promoting him before I even got to know who he was because I listened to this hunch. And that's when I got introduced to hypnotherapy. We got along like a house on fire. We were very connected. And then he said to me, why don't you come to India and bring your coaching work there? Because I was doing a lot of coaching back then. And I was working for Anthony Robbins, who's a big coach in America. I was on his team for a while.
Were you? Oh my gosh. I just watched his Tony Robbins documentary on Netflix recently.
Yes, I'm Not Your Guru.
He's very charismatic and powerful. So you were working for him?
I was working on his team for 2 years.
Oh, what were you doing there?
I was what they called a mastery mentor. So I did one-on-one consulting and coaching sessions with the people that would attend his preliminary program called Unleash the Power Within. And I would do the one-on-one coaching with them. And I would also sell his upcoming Mastery University programs and be a part of it. It was an amazing experience.
And you left that because?
Because I wanted to start off on my own. So that got me traveling a lot. I'd be in Hong Kong and then I'd be away for a month in London or Sydney or India. Then I'd come back and travel again. And so I wanted to be based here to actually do my own thing. So that just naturally transitioned off. And then just the month that I ended with the Tony team, I got introduced to my teacher here. I went to India to do my coaching work and to do some sort of image consulting work, which I was doing back then. And he said that while you're at it, you might as well learn this thing that I'm teaching. So I said, okay. So I went and I lived in India and I lived with him for 2.5 months. I did the entire curriculum back to back. And by the end of it, I said, okay, I guess I'm a trained therapist now. And I came back to Hong Kong and I needed to do 10 case studies that you need to do in order to become a licensed therapist. And I was promoting myself as a coach and image consulting. And all of these people were saying, no, I want to try hypnotherapy. Let me be your case study. So I naturally started getting more people towards that. The changes that I saw them making in their lives and the difference was phenomenal. And very soon I got my license. And then because of my experience in public speaking at that point and the other work that I'd done, I got invited to teach. So now I'm a teacher of the curriculum as well. And I'm a franchisee of the institute in Hong Kong.
So for our listeners, can you explain what hypnotherapy is and how it works?
Sure. So hypnotherapy essentially is getting your conscious and subconscious mind to say the same thing. And we do this for an objective. Like we don't use hypnotherapy just for fun. Normally, there is a reason why you can't do what you want. For example, you want to speak confidently in public, but you can't. You want to be able to overcome your fear of diving, but you can't. You want to attract a relationship and trust men, but you can't for some reason. And the reason you can't is because there are beliefs that are saying the opposite of what you want in the subconscious mind. And we can't access that on a sort of normal basis. So hypnotherapy helps us to access the substratum of the subconscious mind, go to that part that is holding those beliefs that are negating what you want, release the toxicity of the experience that has given you that belief. For example, an experience that has made you scared of dogs. And so you've got this conclusion, dogs are scary because I've been bitten. Or seeing your parents fight and you think that relationships don't work. So it releases the toxicity of that experience. It shifts your belief so that you can live the life that you want. And so your conscious and subconscious mind can say the same thing. And then life begins to work.
From what you're saying, it sounds like it works on making emotional or mental changes, changing of attitudes and beliefs. What about on a practical level, like, for example, if I wanted to lose some weight, stop overeating and cut out sugar? Would hypnotherapy be able to work for that?
Yes, absolutely. Because it is the mental and the emotional that affects the physical, right? It's a thought that gives you an emotion. An emotion has a frequency of energy and that energy affects the body. So the reason why we're not able to cut off sugar is because there is a fundamental belief that this is my coping mechanism. This is my friend, and that's mental. The reason why we can't give up smoking is because, again, we have used it to cover up a void that we feel. That void is mental. And also the reason why we have diseases in our bodies, for example, like polycystic ovaries, kidney stones, even things like cancer, diabetes, that can also be mapped back to the mind. And so if you deal with those fundamental issues in the mind, you can resolve not only mental and emotional, but also lots of physical issues. And I have successfully worked with a lot of physical cases.
Would you say that everybody is able to be hypnotized, or are some people not able to be?
I would say that if you are willing and you give permission, then you can. It's easier for some people because of the trust level. So there are some people that find it very easy to give up control and trust another, and they will find it easier to be hypnotized. There are others that have more fears around this, and they will take longer. But if you don't want to be hypnotized and you block yourself, it won't work. So there are two different schools of thought on hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Like a lot of times when I tell people I'm a hypnotherapist, I get comments like, oh, I shouldn't look into your eyes. You're going to make me act like a chicken or a monkey or something. And that's not what I do for a living, right? We don't come here to make people act like chickens or monkeys. That is the Eastern school of thought. And that does exist, where without your permission, someone can actually put a thought into your mind and get you to act in certain ways. It's what you see in Las Vegas, what you see on TV. What we do is very similar to meditation. And if you don't want it, it's not going to work. So it's not a competition that says, well, let's see who wins, and I'm going to block the therapist from entering my mind. Well, we don't enter your mind anyway. We facilitate you to actually go into your own mind. And so we do need your willingness, and we do need you to give us permission. And with that, we'll put you in a very comfortable, very relaxed position and take you into that part of your mind that you don't have access to. And the state is most similar to meditation.
And how many sessions would it generally take for someone to be successful at quitting smoking or making sort of quite significant changes to their lifestyle?
This really varies on even the person. I recently had somebody that came to me for a big phobia that she had on diving. She just could not dive. Now, in one session alone, that phobia went, but because this client was so willing to go where I wanted her to go, and we went into a past life. So in that first session, we did a past life regression. We looked at the fact that she had died while drowning, and that's why this was a phobia. And that's why no matter what, the body's not going to let her do this. But not everyone can do this, and I used a different technique from the clinical hypnosis to do that. That's why we could so quickly and easily go. I did a transpersonal regression therapy.
How did you know that you needed to go in that direction rather than doing hypnotherapy with this woman in the first session?
Well, it's accessing the same area. And the thing is, the client's mind tells me where to go. I just take the client to the cause of their issue. So it's like I provide a bridge between the issue and the cause. Now, the cause could be a current life incident. It could be when they were in their mother's womb. It could be a past life. It could be anywhere. I don't know where that is. The client knows. So once I provide that link, the client takes me there. And depending on where they take me, I can then look at that experience, release the toxicity from that, and then life begins to work. So for her, one session was enough. For others, we need more time because we need to get them used to the fact that this is what is happening. And not everyone is open to even the notion of past lives. Not everyone is open to hypnotherapy. So I am a firm believer in not working against someone's beliefs. So if someone doesn't believe in past life, we don't go there. There are other techniques we can use. And if people are more logical and more sort of left-brained, we're going to go that route and explain everything to them bit by bit and show them the linkages of why this happens. And so it can take maybe 5 to 10 sessions. It could take one session. It really depends. On an average, I would say at least 5.
So I'd imagine that if someone's coming to you for hypnotherapy, they're open to the process because they're signing up for it.
Yes.
But have you not been successful even though somebody has signed up?
Well, if somebody's coming to me, they're open, and also there's a part of them that is often desperate. Now, I'm saying that because normally I'm not the first choice. So if you have an issue, you're not going to say, oh, let me go to a hypnotherapist and sort it out. You probably have tried all other modalities, that's not worked, and then you end up coming to hypnotherapy, which is actually good for me because you're in a place where you're so ready to do that. And so with most people, it's no problem, it works. The times that it has not worked, it would be when somebody has come not with their own willingness and permission. Like, my wife really wants me to be here. Or I've got this coupon because they think that I'm messed up. And so in that area, it wouldn't work. And I would say upfront that this is not the modality for you. If you don't believe that there is something to work on, then there is nothing to work on because I'm not going to be getting into a conflict. Exactly.
Yes, that makes complete sense. What type of issues do people come to you for hypnotherapy generally? I mean, you've mentioned a few phobias and smoking and weight loss and coping with emotions and dealing with past life stuff. What other things?
So there's anxiety and there's very specific fears like fear of flying, fear of cockroaches, like specific things. There is depression and that we use other modalities to work with that as well. There could be a persisting complaint, like I always attract men that abuse me. Why do I have this pattern? So there are persisting patterns that we have. There are familial issues that people come with, not being able to control or let go of their aggression, feeling angry all the time, feeling lonely, feeling like I don't belong. There's lots of different ways, and then habit control and these things that are a little bit more common. And often the presenting issue and the real issue can sometimes be very different. So the presenting issue could be I have this persisting headache, and the real issue could be that I just don't trust. And so we help bridge that gap as well. As I said, the issues could even be physical. So people do come with diabetes, cancer, and other physical issues. Like I've been able to deal with kidney stones, ovarian, sort of polycystic ovarian disorders and things like that. Also sports enhancements. So I can help people become better at the sport that they're doing. I actually worked with somebody, and I'm able to say this because it was on the newspaper and he's given me permission. His name is Dan Wells, and he is a race car driver. So I worked with him for a year, and he won 12 out of 12 races in that year that I worked with him.
Seriously?
Every race that he did.
Wow, I think you'll be getting a few phone calls after this podcast. That's really amazing odds.
So we don't teach people to play the sport, but if they are good at something, all we do is align their mind to their best win or their perfect shot. And they've done that. They know what that's like. So they know what it's like to come through the finish line quicker than anyone else or hit that perfect shot. And we just need to get them attuned to that. And I attach it to any type of trigger. And every time they use that trigger, they go straight there and they can use that every time they're in that sport.
I did not expect that you were going to tell me that. That's really, really cool. What about working with people with anorexia or OCD or fertility issues or things like that? They're just things that have popped into my head.
Oh, and thank you for that, because we do that as well. So I have worked with a lot of eating disorders, bulimia, overeating, anorexia, and this has proved to be successful in that as well.
That's great. What is our inner child, and what does it mean to heal our inner child?
So an inner child is a part of you from the past that is unhealed. Now, the word child sometimes makes people think, oh, it's the child in us, like our 3-year-old self. It doesn't need to be. It could be something that happened yesterday to you, and you felt very upset and angry, and you have suppressed that anger. You've moved on, but that part of you is still stuck in yesterday. So as we are growing up and accumulating experiences, there are obviously some experiences that are traumatic, and we get stuck in that trauma. So even if we grow up in age and our physical body grows up, like for example, if someone is 45 years old, the part of them that is 45 is their body. If their mind is 45 as well, life will look very good. But if there is a part of their mind that is stuck at age 12 or age 20 or age 3, and something reminds them of the trauma that happened then, it's like that 3-year-old wakes up and hijacks you. And so even though the body is 45, the mind becomes the 3-year-old. And so if you were bullied at age 3 and now you're going to a networking event and everyone's standing in a circle and you need to penetrate that circle and you think, gosh, I wasn't included when I was a kid. That 3-year-old inner child wakes up, hijacks your body, and now you start feeling left out when nothing has even happened. That is an inner child. It's a part of us that is stuck in the past, that is not grown up yet.
So what techniques might you use to heal the inner child?
A lot of our techniques involved going back to that time that caused the trauma and using the adult of today as a resource to even speak to that part of you in the past. In that hypnotic state, we go back to that 3-year-old. We talk to them, and the first thing that we do is tell them that whatever they're going through is in the past. Because the 3-year-old hasn't grown up. The 3-year-old is living that incident over and over again. It's stuck. And so by introducing them to the adult of today, the 3-year-old can say, oh, okay, well, I am from the past. I'm not the present. The story that I'm living in is actually over. And this gives them the motivation to then start to have the willingness to release that toxicity, to release those conclusions that I'm not accepted, I'm left out, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm sad, and all of that is in the mind and body. And then we do catharsis. We do some sort of a physical exercise like a breathing out or a tapping to release that negativity that is in. And get the child to feel different. Once the catharsis is done, then they can have a different perspective. Because we can't get wisdom on top of anger. You're too angry. You can't get wisdom on top of feeling sad. Once that anger and sadness is out, we can then see things from a different perspective. We can either see that, okay, the bully would be having their own issues and it's not about me. They've got their own stuff. Or at least realize that this is over and I don't need to hold on to this. And a lot of this is even involving the parents. Seeing that my parents are doing this because of their upbringing, their childhood. They're doing the best they can. We know this intellectually, but the child doesn't know this. So once the child gets that wisdom, then that inner child has been healed. We then bring that inner child back to the adult of today, kind of build a connection, and so we don't get triggered by that particular inner child anymore.
Is this something that you did in your own personal journey, in your own metamorphosis to become the person you are today?
I have done lots and lots of inner child work and past life work. So I've seen over 100 past lives. I've seen, maybe 200 or 300 inner children. And I'm sure I will keep doing more and more self-work until my last breath.
You're listening to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford, and I'm here with Sonia Samtani from the All About You Wellness Centre, and she's going to talk to us about her past lives. Can you tell me something about your past lives?
Yeah, gosh, I've had so many past lives. I was dealing with a relationship once, and I was feeling very helpless in this relationship. And it turned out that my helplessness went back to a past life where this person was my child, and I was a mother who was bipolar, and I had taken this child in my arms and I had abandoned this child. And for my entire life, I felt very, very guilty. And in this life, in that particular relationship, this person was behaving like the spoiled child who needed this unconditional love. And I was behaving like this helpless mother who just kept giving and giving beyond what was logical or needed and just couldn't help myself. So once I visited that past life and healed it, my relationship with this person in this life looked very different.
Do you think that in this life we connect with people from past lives quite often?
All the time, especially when there are things that are undone, like unfinished business. And so in order for that to get clear, we meet people again. We get the opportunity to correct, so to speak, or give back what we have taken. But we don't realize this. So instead of clearing the accounts, we build more. We accumulate more stuff.
Do you feel like that when we meet somebody and we feel like we've already met them or that we know them in some way, do you think that is linked to past lives?
I do. And I also believe that this whole notion of love at first sight is actually, hey, I recognize you not from this life. There is a part of me that knows you, and that's a past life connection.
Oh, that's so romantic.
A lot of love at first sight cases, not all, but a lot of them are not that happy. And it's because in the beginning, this is all so lovely and mushy and it looks amazing. But it's also because you need to clear accounts with this person. So after the lovey-dovey and mushiness part ends, the honeymoon phase, we get to the challenging part. And then you get to that part where, hey, there are some exchanges. There is some learning that needs to take place. They are here to make you accept certain things, take certain actions, and either you do them or you're in pain. They can be quite challenging relationships too.
And do you work with couples?
Yes, I do couples counseling. And I do a lot of work with couples. The way that I work is I do a facilitated conversation with the couple where we get them to understand each other and understand each other's language and triggers, which is important because we tend to believe that other people are like ourselves and they're really not. Like there'll be one partner that needs to talk and the other one that needs space when there's an issue. And they just don't get this. There'll be one partner who's upset and needs a hug and the other one says, get away, I need my time. So we do a facilitated conversation on the needs. And then in that conversation, issues that are pertaining to each person come up. So somebody will feel like, oh, I've not let go of the anger against my mom. And someone else will feel I've got this major fear of rejection. And then I do private sessions with both of them to deal with that. And then they come back again for the facilitated conversation, back for the private session. So it's like a little dance between the together, separate, together, separate.
Anyone out there who's struggling in their relationship, come and see Sonia. And at the end, we'll give you some more details of how to do that. So do you do life coaching as well at the moment?
Not so much of just life coaching. I integrate that into my therapy. So I always start off with some coaching and counseling in the beginning, and then we do the closed eye process, which is the therapy part of it. So it's integrated in my sessions.
Can you tell me what chakra healing is?
Chakra healing basically looks at the energy vortexes in our body, and we've got 7 major energy vortexes. And this is used as mostly a diagnostic tool, and I can see what your chakras, how they're functioning, if there are any blockages. For example, if there is a blockage in the root chakra, there could be some issues around survival, money. If there are blockages around the throat, it could be things that you've not been saying, not been expressing and suppressing within. And that gives me an indication of what needs to be healed. Now, I can give you an affirmation that can unblock that for now. So with the quick chakra healing, you walk away with an affirmation that will unblock that, and we can see that with the swing of the pendulum, whether it's unblocked. And for this to give long-lasting changes, we can do deeper therapeutic work too.
You also do spiritual mentoring. What's that?
So spiritual mentoring is a nice fancy name that I've given to clients that want to continue working with me. A lot of times people come with a specific issue, like, as I said, relationships, a particular fear, phobia, public speaking. And then that issue gets resolved, but they find that they've got so much from the sessions that they want to keep continuing. And so I call this spiritual mentoring because we can keep going into deeper levels. We can find out what their life purpose is. We can go into other past lives, other objectives. We can find out where they were before they entered this planet. We can go into several different places and help them evolve. Can keep the consciousness shifting into different levels. And so the people that continue working with me, and some have done that for, 6 or 7 years, we call that spiritual mentoring.
Do lots of your clients continue on even after the main issue that they came for has been solved?
Yes, lots of them choose to carry on. And it's different with everybody. Like someone that just wants to come for a phobia of water, come for that one session, got what I wanted, thank you, goodbye. Some will come and stay on for maybe a couple of months for a few different issues. Some will just stay on for years and years because they feel like they're getting so much. Some of them move away from Hong Kong and still want to continue, so I do Skype sessions too.
You've mentioned on your website and in this podcast that you help people with public speaking. Can you tell me a bit about this and how you do it?
Sure. So I do both individual sessions and I do a workshop on effective public speaking. Now, as I said to you before, myself, I was in a position where I didn't even know how to say what my order was in McDonald's. And now I have done lots and lots of public speaking in the last 11 or 12 years. I have emceed big events. I have spoken as a keynote speaker. I speak around once a week at minimum on a public platform now. My workshop is quite unique because I have tackled things from different places. I limit this to 6 people only. Each person gets 3 chances to speak in public. And in between those 3 presentations, I give them a lot of tips on how to stand, what to do with their hands, because a common question is, I don't know what to do when I'm not gesturing. So we call it a resting pose. What's your resting pose? How to structure your speech, what to say, how to introduce yourself. And we also look at the mindset. What is this big fear around public speaking and how to eliminate that fear? So I do that in that big group workshop, and in individual sessions, if you've got a particular speech that's coming up, I can help you with a PowerPoint with that. I've mentored a lot of people that are speaking on TEDx or giving specific presentations on how to give that particular talk. This one is, again, as I said, very sort of personal. What we found is that public speaking is the #1 biggest fear in the world, even before death. And this is because in the subconscious mind, we have linked this to survival. So what's behind the fear of public speaking? It's the fear of being judged. And obviously it's not being judged positively, it's being judged negatively. And the result of that is, if I'm judged negatively, I may not be accepted. And not being accepted or included is akin to death. Because if we go back through evolution and see how we have evolved, we used to live as primitive man more like the animal. So we would just follow our instincts, eat, sleep, urinate, defecate, mate. And then we developed a way of thinking. And through our creative thinking, we found that maybe we have a bigger way of overcoming the animal predator if we live in groups rather than live by ourselves. And this formed the foundation of families. This also told us that if I'm not included in a group, I may as well die. This triggers a fight or flight response, and that's what happens with public speaking.
So I can imagine that having the opportunity to come and do public speaking with you would be great at developing the public speaking skills as well as overcoming all these fears.
Yes, absolutely. I really do focus on the mindset because that is it, right? People say that they go blank when they're public speaking. And that's because they're in fight or flight. Like if your consciousness has left your body, you will be blank because there's nothing inside. Part of fight or flight is that flight is the one that normally happens to us. We fly away mentally, we become blank and we don't know what we're doing. So I really do focus a lot on that.
Can you share any anecdotal evidence of a success story of someone you've worked with?
Yes, so there's different areas. So in the area of relationships, I did have somebody that believed that she was not good enough to attract a partner, that there was no one out there, and now she's happily married. So that's a nice evidence. There was somebody that had a big issue with money, and as a result of working, he got around almost 50 million euros, which was again very tangible, and that was great. There's been anxiety and panic attacks. So there is somebody that had panic attacks every time she would go on a date, and those have completely stopped. There is someone, as I said, with a polycystic ovaries disorder who went for a sonography and had nothing there at all.
Really?
Yeah, that takes time. With physical issues, give it 3 months.
Right.
With mental and emotional, you can give it 3 weeks or it can happen immediately.
Okay, that's really, really useful to know for the listeners out there who are thinking about all the things that they might be able to come and see you for. If someone's struggling with life, what would you recommend that they do?
The first thing would be acknowledge the struggle. Because if we're pretending that we're not struggling, it's going to be much worse. And the reason behind the struggle is because there are parts of you that you have rejected and that you have not accepted. So healing is just about loving and accepting those parts of you that you have rejected. And it feels as if other people have rejected it, but it's not. Because if somebody else told you that you were a tree, you would feel nothing because you know it's not true. But if someone tells you that, you know what, you're really not good enough, you're not smart, you're not pretty, you're not intelligent, it hurts because there's a little part of you that believes it too. And that little part of you is rejecting you. So all personal struggles come from self-rejection and they can all be healed by self-acceptance.
I really like that tree analogy. That really makes what you said afterwards, really ring true and makes a lot of sense. I think that there are many people out there that compare themselves to others and they don't really focus on their own skills and talents. They don't focus on their own positive qualities. What do you say to people who are focusing more on the negative than the positive?
I would say, unfortunately, a lot of this is due to conditioning, right? We've been conditioned to feel better or worse than others, better or worse than ourselves. And this is things that we've picked up from society. So those of us that are not focusing on our own strengths, sometimes just saying, you know what, ignore that and see the beauty in you is very intellectual. It doesn't really make a big difference. So what I like to say is find out what those beliefs are underneath it. Do you believe that I'm always second, I'm never first, or other people are better than me? Then think about, where did this belief come from? Did it come from society? Did it come from your parents? And we're not blaming them because they picked it up from somewhere too. But mentally what you can do is close your eyes, picture your parent or society and return that belief back to them. Just imagine that you were doing this. This could look like a color going back. It looks like a frequency. It could feel like something. Give that back to them. It's like doing an energy exchange. And then just intend to get back that part of you that you lost when you took on this negative belief. And something will shift. And then you can look at this again and perhaps feel different, because it's not just intellectually saying to someone that, don't compare yourself. We all know this. But we're doing it anyway because of that. And you can continue doing this energy exchange mentally every day until you feel the effect of it has worn down.
Great advice. Thank you so much. That's a little top tip for us all.
Yes.
So I have a theory that since the internet was invented and social media came about, that it really has a massive negative effect on a lot of people, because people portray their lives as being amazing and people compare themselves more to others on the internet, and we're really sort of bombarded by imagery and bombarded by social media. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would agree. And I think that it's perpetuating this whole putting on a mask that we do anyway. So there are people that tell me, if only I could be as happy as I look on Facebook, because on Facebook I look really happy. So it is perpetuating the whole notion that let's pretend that we're happy when we're not. Let's show something that's actually not really happening. We're getting more rules, more stuff, and yet this is not something that's going to go away. So it's giving us a bigger challenge to overcome. And why not take this as a way to make ourselves step up to a greater level? and be okay with who we are, and find it okay to maybe post something on social media where maybe you don't look your best, or do something that is a little bit different, and use that in a way to empower rather than disempower yourself, because otherwise we're going to be in the rat's race and doing what everyone else is doing.
Do you work with teenagers, children, adults, the whole gamut, or mostly adults?
Mostly adults. And in fact, for a larger part of my career, it was only adults until the adults were requesting me to work with their children. And that's how I started working with children. And this worked really well for me because most children, especially young ones below the age of 10, they don't really have their own issues unless it's congenital. They're born with it. Their issues, especially their mental and emotional ones, are ones that they have picked up from the family. So through what they have seen, what they're experiencing at home, they pick up the antisocial behavior, they pick up their anxiety, their tics. And if I am working with either one of their parents, I can actually work on this at a deeper level because what's going on with them is what is happening at home. And so I do work with children now. I prefer to work with children whose parents are also open to us working. And we do a nice sort of trust triangle where the child knows that I'm not going to say anything to the parent without their permission. But we do end up having three-way conversations where we can address things.
Oh, I love that saying, trust triangle. That's fantastic. Yeah, I can see how that could really work and could benefit families. How can people who are interested in learning more about your services get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to whatever modality you like. So my website is www.allaboutyouscenter.com, and that is center, CENTRE. You can call us at 299-20828. You can email us at info@allaboutyouscenter.com, or you can WhatsApp us. Our WhatsApp number is 5435-8119.
Sonia, can you tell me if you have any other practitioners who work here at All About You Wellness Centre?
Yes, we have both resident and visiting practitioners that are working here. So with our resident practitioners, we have somebody that's doing intuitive acupuncture body massage that helps move the energy once you do your sessions and your therapy. We have a Second healer, which is energy healing work. We have someone doing makeup. We have a loss and grief counselor. And with our overseas practitioners, we have someone doing fast track technique to release your muscle memories and release beliefs. We have a psychic shamanic healer, a palm reader, numerologist, tarot card readers. We've got a hypnotherapist that comes in as well from India, a psychotherapist and a counselor that specializes in children. So we've got lots of different people coming in at different times. And every month we normally have one visiting practitioner. So you can look at our website and our calendar to know what's going on each month.
Thank you so much, Sonia. This has been so enlightening, so interesting, and I really do think that you'll get a lot of interest from our listeners because I think you could help many, many people on many, many levels. It's been great to meet you. Thanks for speaking with me.
Thank you so much, Jules. It's been a pleasure.
So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it. I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.